Shut up and sit down.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Football is America with Ron and Kyle. I'm Ron.
And that makes me the lord of all of the people who are not Ron, which is a large, large group. Unfortunately, it is limited to within the podcast. So then it is only large because I am fat.
Wow. Okay. You still haven't said your name.
Oh yeah, it's Kyle.
So, how are you today, Kyle? Obviously,
Well, clearly I have no interest in being serious with this nonsense. I think that's apparent. It's going to be a good one today.
Well, Happy New Year, everybody. I hope that you had a good holiday season and that...
Ron, what is your New Year's resolution? Do you have one? What is it?
My New Year's resolution is the same thing that it is every single year.
To stop, spanking it with a thumb up your butt?
No, I'm going to edit that out. Thank you for that.
What is your New Year's resolution, Ron?
It's going to be the same thing it is every year, and that is to not... Okay, we can't use that. Just ask the question.
Wow, yeah, that's... we'll strike two. All right, we're going to see if we can get this on number 3. Ron, what is your New Year's resolution?
My New Year's resolution is the same thing it is every single year, and that is just to be a better dad, honestly.
That's interesting.
What is your New Year's resolution, Kyle? And it better not be related to Taco Bell.
Well, I mean, not overtly in any way, but no, my New Year's resolution is to ensure that you do not succeed in your New Year's resolution.
Well, far the last 2 years running, you have succeeded, so...
Sometimes the Lord gives you a gift, and you're not sure how or why he wants you to use it, but you use it, because he is the father of all creation. Deal with it, atheists. It's a fact. It's in the textbooks. They know why. Yeah, God told me, Kyle, I want you to annoy, when I said, whatever, queer, and he said, good job. Good job.
All right, well,
As it turns out, God is way down with sarcasm. And if you don't believe me, look at the world you live in.
Don't forget, you can email us at footballisamericapodcast@gmail.com. You can also get us on Twitter at FBIApodcast, Facebook.com/footballisamericapodcast. Those are the places you can get us. You can also get us on our website, comment in the iTunes, on the Stitcher, on the Pocket Cast. All those places you get the show. You can write us reviews, do all that kind of stuff.
You could. It would be nice if you did these things.
Don't forget also to go to audibletrial.com/FBIA podcast. Sign up for your Audible trial. You can cancel it with no cost before the 30-day mark. Get yourself a free book. Try it out. If you like it, then you can keep it. All of those things help our show out. Go there, get your book, listen to it while doing whatever it is you're doing, your winter gardening, whatever, because you're going to need to be doing winter gardening because you're going to be going to 1-800-flowers.com/FBIA podcast to get your 1-800-flowers order done, and then you're going to have to bring them back, and you have to find a way to plant them, even though they're not plantable. But
I was wondering what the hell you were talking about, and then you went through with your sentence, and then I'm wondering what the hell are you talking about?
Also,
you want to let me go ahead and handle these adverts?
I mean, if you want to take some, I mean, that would be great for you to do some actual work for once.
Well, first off, let's not get ahead of ourselves. All right, you should know absolutely better than me in work. All right, everybody should know better at this point. I do just enough to kind of hide the look a little bit. So, yeah. But what I can tell everybody about is Nature Box. Now, we all know what it sounds like, but what it actually is little snackies. You shove them in your face, and they're generally healthy. So instead of dying of diabetes, you can just die of cancer. I mean, it's gonna. We all die. Oh, that's terrible. You said I was gonna die of cancer. Well, you're gonna die eventually, but not because of this product. Nature Box regretting their support of us in our show.
They give you healthy snacks. You sign up for a subscription. It's free for the first 30 days. You get yourself a couple of free snacks, try them out, and then they come to your doorstep every single month. The stuff that you want. Anything from blueberry granola chips to chocolate chip cookie dough pretzel sticks. They're delicious. That's my favorite still. Of all the things they have, is still my favorite.
Do they deliver to Alaska?
They do deliver to Alaska.
Well, then why the hell don't I have chocolate chip cookie dough pretzel whatever's, I mean, shoving them up in my food hole, asphyxiating myself with delicious. That's how I'm going out, people. I choose my destiny.
Don't forget
David Carradine the hell out of this.
Also, newest sponsor is Hulu.com. Hulu.com/FBI podcast. Go on there, sign up for your free trial. You get an extra 2 weeks on the already 14-day free trial, and as long as you signed up, you help out our show, and you get to watch Hulu. You
can watch it on your mobile device. You do not need a Wi-Fi connection, so you're out there with your LTE. Bam, you got yourself some Hulu for some free.
That's good stuff. I have Hulu. I know you have Hulu, Kyle. We both love it very much. If you're the kind of person that spends a lot of time away from home, and just someone like me, I don't have a cable service. I don't have satellite TV. I don't have cable TV. So I just have internet. Therefore, I have Hulu, and that is how I get most of my television. I don't actually watch live TV. I don't have a DVR. I don't have any of that. It's just, it would be a waste of money for me because all I would be doing is basically doing the exact same thing Hulu does for a much cheaper price. You get Hulu for $8 a month after your trial, and that's way more than what I need rather than paying another $60 to a cable company to have a DVR.
Hell, I work for a cable company, and I get my stuff for free, as I should, because it's a good company. I still have Hulu. Because it's amazing, you're out to lunch. You don't want to talk with the people you work with. They're smelly and terrible, except if the people I work with are listening. You guys are great. But those other people, those guys, the ones that you guys work with, they're smelly, they're terrible. So you go out, you get your lunch, you sit in your car, and you watch some TV. Then you realize maybe today is not the day that I burn this building to the ground. So now we've got something that we are involved with preventing arson, and I'm pretty sure that gets me a Nobel Peace Prize at the end of the year.
If anybody ever awarded you any form of Peace Prize in any way, shape, or form,
it was pretty clear that there was an apocalypse, and I cockroached my way through it, and there's like 8 of us left, and I was the one who was just biding my time with the violence. And they're like, well, you were the least violent. Here's your Peace Prize. And then I'd use it to beat them all to death with.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get into the game reviews, Kyle, for our wild card weekend. And what a wild weekend it was.
It was kind of wild, but I mean, it wasn't like Lake Havasu spring break wild. It was sort of like the old folks home stopped regulating meds wild.
Just dogs without horses, just going nuts.
Let me tell you, young people out there, if you want a good time, just go volunteer at an old folks home. They're about to die and they don't care. There's no filter. Racism you won't believe coming out these people's mouths. And like to each other. You will watch a white lady say the most horrible things about black people to a black lady who's got dementia and is nodding her head agreeing. And you're just sitting there like, how is any of this okay? And the staff's just like, I'm just, I don't know. And the smell of aspirin and pee. Let me tell you, when you walk outside and smell some roses, it's like being reborn after dealing with that nonsense. These are the small pleasures I have in life. Volunteering with old people for the worst reasons possible.
Oh, man. Your mind is a fun labyrinth of just terrible and horrible.
Yeah, it really kind of truly is. But when you go there, you can't tell them I'm here because of the racism and the smells. If you do that, you're getting escorted out real fast.
Well, let's talk Arizona Cardinals and Carolina Panthers.
Let's jump into these games and their disappointment. Well, I mean, one team's disappointed anyway. Most of the games, pretty darn exciting. This one,
Yeah, it was definitely it was one I kind of saw coming. I picked the Panthers to win 27-13. They ended up winning 27-16, and this was the worst performance from an offense and quarterback ever in playoff history.
and you are talking about Ryan Lindley and the Arizona Cardinals.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, they were really, really impressive bad.
Yeah, it was almost like you almost have to try to be as bad as they were. It was like something where I know Bruce Arians was just sticking to his guns, and he was like, "Well, I picked Ryan Lindley. That's who I'm going with." But I mean, at some point, how did it not come across his mind? Like, you know what? We're down. What have I got to lose? Let's just go with Logan Thomas and figure if we see if
Hell,
we
at
can.
a certain point, you put your kicker out there. Because I remember at one point, another disappointing unit for Arizona, their special teams, that alone you could make the argument could have lost them the game. But there was a time when we were watching, and I'm like, Ron, is it just me? Or is Carolina winning or gaining ground by getting the ball, gaining like no yards, punting about 50 yards, and Arizona gets it, gains no yards, and then punts it about 30 yards. So if you're doing the math in your head, that's 20-yard gains each time by doing nothing. This was the most spectacular example of people not knowing how to win. Like, you could watch high school football and be more entertained. It was very difficult to enjoy this game. It was very difficult.
Obviously, this was the worst two teams in the playoffs left because one team got in because they were super good at the beginning of the season, another team got in because they just happened to suck the least in their division. So this was going to be obviously the worst game of the day.
Yeah, and you feel bad for the Cardinals. It's not really their fault. You can't plan for your primary and your backup quarterback to be out all the time. Although I will say this, when your primary goes down, you need to sign another backup quarterback because you want your primary to be, obviously amazing. Your backup needs to be good enough to step in. If you got a third stringer just hanging around, don't do that. Unless he can step in and play. And they clearly don't have that in Ryan Lindley or John Skelton or, where's Kevin Cole? What's he doing? Nothing.
I mean, this offense posted the fewest net yards of any team in playoff history. They went 78 total yards from scrimmage, averaging a pathetic 1.7 yards per play. So they needed, if everything is correct in my head, they technically needed 6 plays on average to achieve a first down.
About, yeah.
And if it wasn't for a muffed punt by the Panthers and a nearly pick six by Cam Newton and an intentional safety for the most part, Arizona would have been shut out in this game. Their defense got them almost all of their points.
We knew it was going to happen. What do you want from Arizona? They've got so many injuries and starting running backs out, starting and backup quarterback are out. You can only do so much. And the point when I stopped watching the game, because at a certain point, it's a dude still hitting on 20 because he's that drunk. You can't stand it anymore, was when I looked at the eyes of the Arizona defense and they were defeated. And this is like early in the third quarter. And they had this look on their face like, we're just burning our energy out here. The offense is not going to get it done. And when the look on their face, and not one guy, all of them said, we are going to lose, and we know it. It's like, well, I'm not watching.
It was their defense. It's definitely their high point going into next year, but even in this game, they weren't spectacular like they had been. I was definitely wrong about them not giving up the yards on the ground like the Falcons did because Jonathan Stewart still had 123 yards and a touchdown. But Cam Newton, even he didn't even look all that great. I mean, his passing game is still...
It was poopy. It was bad.
He still looks hurt. He was wincing a lot. He got beat up quite a bit by what defense was out there playing for the Cardinals. And I'm telling you, watch for those hits from the Seahawks this coming game, because they're going to be, after watching the game that I saw on TV this weekend, the Seahawks saw it too, and they know where to go after. They know where to go at Newton now. I mean, it's going to happen.
It's just kind of fortunate that all of the things that Carolina is struggling even that little bit at, like passing, Seattle's perfect for taking that down. Oh, you made a slight mistake? Haha, we are going to capitalize on it because you're terrible. That little kid in that Play 60 video, he's very soon going to replace Cam Newton as Cam Newton's mom's favorite player because Cam Newton is not throwing the ball well. That didn't stop every smacktard analyst from talking about how great he was. He ran for first downs on consecutive third down plays. I don't care.
He only ran for 35 yards. Like, everybody made
but
it sound like he had a 200-yard day, but he didn't. He ran 7 times for 35 yards. That's it.
I'm fairly certain that it's like giving a baby a shiny new toy when most football analysts see a quarterback run. It's like a unicorn farting. It's so rare. And they're just, I can't believe, we are witnessing a movement here, people. And you're like, no, he scampered a little bit. You know,
So what do you think about the Panthers linebackers, though? Luke Kuechly and
I just want to know when our genetic engineers are going to make a baby out of Luke Kuechly and J.J. Watt, because that's going to be a baby that will destroy everyone.
Holy cow.
Handsome doing it.
Well, the big story in this one obviously was Ed Hockley's crew being pretty awful. The big one that glared out to me was the forward pass that was not a fumble, because when the intent to throw the ball forward is changed to backwards because he is contacted during the throwing motion, that means it was still a forward pass. If that's a rule, what?
It makes how does that not make sense to you? He's
It
throwing
does
the ball.
make sense
He's
to me.
getting hit, and he's kind of throwing it sideways, like maybe a yard forward. So because he's getting hit, he is now getting spun. So instead of release point being at 30 degrees, it's now at 72 degrees. Okay, now it's not traveling forward as much, but still, if you look at the mechanics, had he not been interrupted, it's fine. So that's the deal with it. Was it going to be a pass behind the guy had he not been interrupted? No. Well, then, all right, cool. And here's the other thing. Would it have changed the outcome of the game?
Possibly. Well, we don't know.
No, it wouldn't have. Did you see that failure show out there in the Cardinal offense? It was really bad. It's the sort of thing that makes you realize that Dr. Kevorkian had a point.
Well, okay, so if that rule is the case, and I get it. Okay, so let's say that
he is.
Let's state that rule is the case, okay? When you look at where he was going to throw the ball to before he was contacted and spun, he was still throwing to a spot where there was no one.
There was a guy.
No, there was not.
There was that dude.
Don't say that dude. No, I don't want to hear who's it's and that dude and stuff like that. There was no one there. Where he was going to throw the football, there wasn't anybody there for 20 yards. All of the receivers on that side of the field that had come either across the middle to the opposite side or were deep down the field. Had he thrown the actual ball there and not been contacted, it would have been an intentional grounding, which is what it should have been at all. But then Ed Hockley says no because there was an eligible receiver in the area. No, there wasn't. Not unless everybody in the stands is an eligible receiver by that logic. So I don't understand how and I get it. Like the outcome of the play wouldn't have changed the entire outcome of the game, but still we're going to get into this a little bit later, but it's just getting worse every game, Kyle. Every single game, it seems like it just gets worse.
Well, I was a little more confused by the game headed up by Jeff Triplett as he's out there. I'm like, oh, this idiot. And they're like, yeah, these are the referees who did really well and they get a postseason game. Not as good as the referees who get the Super Bowl, but some of them, they are not here. They are sitting at home. I'm like, wait, you mean there are idiots who are so bad that they're worse than Jeff Triplett? And then they were essentially like, yeah, they were.
Jeff Triplett is the reason that they had to start sending that they had to create a centralized officiating crew back in New York, because a couple of years ago, he literally was on the phone in the replay booth, got told what the call was, and then went out there and decided on his own that that's what the call was going to be because he just didn't agree with the person on the phone.
Sounds like getting fired for most people, but looks like the NFL is that 1%. Rise up, America. Do something, unless you're scared.
The game sucked. The Panthers win. They go to Seattle and they play next Saturday night. Good for them. It's going to be a complete mind-numbing decimation. I I I I know that they played earlier this year and Seattle won 13-9, but this time it's not going to be that, especially in Seattle.
Seattle, if you do not win, there will be so much finger pointing and laughing. It will be glorious. It will be so ridiculous good. Now, I know that's not going to happen. Seattle got hot late in the year after struggling a little bit early. They have to win. It's just the laws of time and space and Gordo, the sun god. But if by some miracle it doesn't happen, it's awful. Check the game Saturday, 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time.
Baltimore, they go to Pittsburgh and they defeat the Ravens 30-17. And
I like it.
I had the Ravens picked by 3. You had the Steelers picked by 3. And I think what we both said was a field goal or less. But
We were both kind of like, well, you could say either way. And I think we also categorized it as we play it safe, knowing that it could very well spiral out of control one way or the other. And we also said, look, we know that the loss of Le'Veon Bell will be big, but we don't know how big. And it turns out fairly big.
there was no focus on the fact that Le'Veon Bell's absent was the reason for the Steelers' loss. They didn't talk about it much during the game. The announcers really kind of glazed over it. It just seemed weird. Now, Tate and Harris, they're both great downfield runners, but they don't even come close in comparison to what Le'Veon Bell's abilities are in pass protection and receiving and all-around third-down performances. It's just they could not hold a candle to that. And
well, not to mention confidence level. You get a guy like Le'Veon Bell out there, all of a sudden everybody's got this swagger to the way they're playing, and you put the other guy out there, and it's like, I mean, Tate, for having just been signed, looked really good, but there's no confidence. You're not easing the tension on anybody. You're not reducing the nerves. You probably aren't making it worse, but you have a Le'Veon Bell in your backfield. There's a whole lot you don't have to worry about as a tight end or a quarterback or a lineman, because hey, that guy's doing his job, and that's one thing in the back of my mind that I'm not worried about.
Joe Flacco, he had one of the best games of the year for him.
Well, yeah, it's the playoffs, and somehow he is twice as good in the playoffs. It's awesome. It's the best thing a quarterback can do.
He went 18 for 29, 259 yards, 2 touchdowns. And last week, Kyle, I asked you if they could turn on the amazing again like they did 2 years ago. And you told me, no, they don't have the reason this year that they did 2 years ago.
I forgot that wanting to win a Super Bowl was a reason. and then I mentioned that, and people were like, but can't they want? And I'm like, oh yeah, it's pretty valid. But I still stand by my statement that they were helped in that Super Bowl run by the emotional push of Ray Lewis saying he's done, and he's going to go ahead and hang it up and go back to stabbing people or whatever. I don't even know what happened with that. So I can't make jokes. I heard about something about a knife and a jacket. And I'm like, well, unless he's downtown at Macy's slashing crap up, I don't care, because you're not giving me details.
Maybe he was just stuck in his jacket.
Ooh, that's a good angle. Let's get Marty McFly on it.
Big Ben on the other side, he was good for the most part, considering he felt kind of all alone without his security blankie. So the under pressure all game, it took its toll because he didn't have anyone to really check down to. And he had 334 yards and a touchdown, but he also had 2 picks.
He still got a lot to Antonio Brown. He still got some things done, but you could tell that too often that's what he was looking for, because that check down's not there. Too often he's force feeding the ball to Antonio Brown going, it's you or nothing.
And the second pick he had in the end zone after coming back in, Mike Tomlin.
Funny one?
Yeah, Mike Tomlin's an idiot for putting him back in after that hit. You could tell that it fazed him. You could look at his face when they showed him on the camera on the sideline, and I could see from my couch that he should not go back into this football game. And on top of that, Bruce Gradkowski came in.
I thought it was Gradkowski.
I don't know. No one knows how to say that name. Who knows how to say that name?
Polish.
Right.
Most people.
So he looked.
Well, that's the city of Pittsburgh, isn't it?
I don't know. I don't know stuff
It's
like
the
that.
whole look. All I know is that dude looked cool. Like he walked into the game and I'm like, whoa, suddenly I'm interested. This dude looks like one of the Pittsburgh Steelers from the 1970s with all his crazy facial hair and his weird Pollock last name. Wait, is Pollock an insult or is that the proper term?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Well, I didn't mean it as an insult. So any Pollocks out there who were insulted, shut up, Pollock.
He came in though, and he played really well.
It looked like the dude who could be the starting high school quarterback if he wanted to try, but he's just there because his dad wants him to be there. He's not into that effort thing, man, but he's got so much natural talent. And Johnny went down, so now we get to see Bill Cool Guy getting in there, and he throws a pass so hard all the ladies' panties explode. Kablow! He will be the cool rich kid 2 towns over in my Tim Tebow, Johnny Manziel thing. That guy had the look. He looked like the sort of dude who, in today's day and age, you don't allow near your children. But in the 1970s, he was the basis of every character on every TV show ever.
He looks like he could play both the rich kid and the grungy pot dealer.
He does. He does look like he should be a dude dealing pot in a James Franco, Seth Rogen movie. I hope he realizes the potential of his 70s style look. Also, why aren't we dressing like the 1970s anymore? Those ridiculous, terrible pants. What? Come on, hipsters, do something with that. Nobody is claiming the bad looks of the 70s, and hipsters are all about looking terrible. Sweater pants? I don't know what the hell that is, but I'm pretty sure if a Korea War veteran sees you in that, he will go ahead and break a hip trying to kill you.
Well, he did step in for Big Ben, and he played really well after being in a second and long situation, and then a third and long situation, and then a fourth and long situation. Got them all the way down deeper into the red zone, right there. Then Big Ben came back in and immediately, like on cue, threw the pick, and it was a terrible pick.
It was a terrible decision.
It was god awful. It's like three Ravens around Antonio Brown, like nowhere near the ability. Like it was awful. And it was a
bad throw and a bad decision, and
not just by Big Ben, but also by Mike Tomlin. He should have left Brucey in there to finish the drive at least, so they could get a much better evaluation, because they could have at least kicked the field goal at that point, because they were down by 10. They needed a touchdown and a field goal to tie. That would have been the route to go.
And it was very kind of awkward. Like, you're watching the game, like, okay, Gradowski throws a pass or he does this thing, whatever. Right, wait a minute. Is that Ben Roethlisberger? When did they make the switch? There was no, like, timeout or break in the play. It was just in between, like, okay, get in there. Like you're swapping out a tight end or whatever. And they all just kind of went right to it. There wasn't any discussion. And I'm wondering how many people in that huddle, if there was such a huddle, didn't look like it to me, were like, dude, are you okay? Because you get that kind of glazed look in your eye. And I'm sure we'll find out in the next day or two he had a concussion or whatever, or a neck injury. Now's the time of year. I love this time of year. Oh, well, I've been dealing with a nagging back issue. That's why we played terrible in this game. No, it's because you're a bad person. It's because God realized that you do not deserve nice things.
What I say to people who are like, oh, well, we've been dealing with this injury, or we've been dealing with that injury, is then why were you playing? If you were out there and you were only hurting your team because of that injury, you shouldn't have been on the field.
You know what that one reminds me of? And I don't know if it's a kind of sore topic or anything, but the NFC Championship game where Jay Cutler was standing on the sidelines, and I'm one of the few people who's like, no, he made the right decision. If he felt that his physical level of play was going to be limited by the injury he sustained, then he is absolutely correct by sitting out and giving the team the best chance to win. And everybody chose to hate on him for it, but it was the right call, and he was playing like crap in that game anyway, so, I mean, who cared? And it's this weird thing. You can't do that at the quarterback position of all things. You should be able to say, the backup's playing good. Let him get another couple throws in there. How much would it have hurt to let what's-his-face finish out that offensive series and let the defense take over or see if he can get the onside or whatever goes, and then see what happens.
Baltimore, they go to New England next Saturday, 4:35 p.m. Eastern on CBS, and that's going to be the one, much like what the Packers are going to have to deal with. This was the one team that New England did not want to see.
And I am suddenly finding myself a Ravens fan. I like what they're doing. I like how they're doing it. They've got a good attitude. They're moving forward, doing the right things, playing good, all around, solid, in your face, hard hitting football. It is fun to watch. And I am really looking forward to what they're going to be doing against Tom Brady. And I'm a little scared as to what will be done to them by Gronkowski. But other than that, that's pretty cool matchup.
All right, well, let's go on to the next one here, Kyle.
Let us move on. Starting our Sunday games, weirdly enough, it was like a 1 o'clock game. Cincinnati Bengals, who were the number 5 seed, went to the Indianapolis Colts, who were the number 4. Colts take this one 26-10. I want to say I was very negative on the Colts and picked the Bengals by about a touchdown.
Yep, we both did.
And I think part of that is it was very difficult at the time to look at the Colts and say they are going to put it together and iron out these wrinkles and acknowledge, more than anything, we didn't believe they would acknowledge their mistakes, particularly at the running back position, and they way did.
For me, it was more of a just the game plans for both teams were good. It just seemed like obviously when it came to the offense for the Bengals, they were just inferior.
I heard a beautiful expression. Cincinnati wasn't doing a whole lot wrong. It was less a matter of the X's and O's and more a matter of the Johnnies and Joes, by which we mean the Colts just had more talent this go round. And obviously you got to look at the quarterback position first. Just like when we did our Pro Bowl estimations, we said, could you replace this guy with Andy Dalton and still win? And Andrew Luck was our first guy. We're like, no way. The Colts would be awful with Andy Dalton. And that's really the key matchup here. Andy Dalton probably played his best postseason game yet. Of course, that's not saying a lot. Still most unimpressive. His passes were either going too far in front of the receivers. He wasn't putting the ball in those nice little windows where the wide receiver can get it and the defensive back can't. And although he didn't really make a lot of mistakes, he didn't do too much well either. He ended up 18 for 35, which is 51.4% for 155 yards. 11 of those completions and like 110 of those yards or something like that came in just the first half. Not super impressive from Andy Dalton, but when you consider his postseason history up to this point, in 3 previous appearances, he has thrown, 6 picks, 6 interceptions, and 4 straight playoff losses for Cincinnati, but that's also 4 years in a row they're making the playoffs.
Yeah, this one also was an injury issue game.
Absolutely.
AJ Green not being there and Jermaine Gresham left the team, without their 2 best receiving options. So that really allowed Indy to key in on the run game and Jeremy Hill and keep that down. And once you take that away from that team, which is basically the basis of their offense, it was just they couldn't overcome that.
And they were forced due to injury to be one-dimensional, and it's nobody's fault. You can't blame the coach or the quarterback or the running back or the coordinators, or it's just how it was. And the Colts have a pretty good run defense when their line is healthy, and they were actually fully healthy this game. So knowing what Cincinnati's going to do, they're going to hand it off to Hill. Well, he ended up getting 47 yards, 13 carries with the long of 18. He managed a touchdown and 3.6 yards a carry for 47 yards. That won't win games. Not his fault. The only unit you can look at Cincinnati and say, all right, come on, you guys, is the defense. They were okay, but unimpressive. 1 sack and 1 turnover on a fumble, not enough to take the pressure off of the offense. And there were way too many times where Colts wide receivers, were double and triple covered and still able to make the play.
Andrew Luck did have one of his best games of the year, though, and easily his best postseason game. He went 31 for 44, 70.5%, 376 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. And you have some highlights that I think you want to bring up here, Kyle.
Yep. Now, I forget how many yards he scrambled for, but it was more than 10, so we'll call it good with that. He got a couple first downs running, so we'll call it good. The play that was quite possibly the best offensive play of the weekend, drops back in the pocket, escapes pressure, rushing forward, just behind the line of scrimmage, throws while falling, defender grabbing his ankle and calf, pulling him down. While falling, ball goes up 36 plus yards to a waiting Dante Moncrief in the end zone. Ball placed perfect, so the two defensive backs that were covering him had no chance to even touch it or touch him. Great play, good catch, and he would have had a few other touchdowns or opportunities at the very least, but T.Y. Hilton had a few drops. T.Y. Hilton showed us a couple things this weekend. He was definitely affected by his hamstring injury. He would be getting up slow, got some drops early because he wasn't focusing on the catch. He was focusing on the run after because of his legs. He got better as the game progressed and he got warmed up. The other thing he showed us is that he is still damned impressive. Managed to get 103 yards off of 6 receptions despite being double covered all night. And if he hadn't dropped a few passes, he would have had a touchdown and probably close to a 200-yard playoff game. And it's not the first time he's done that.
Yeah, the Colts defense didn't have a lot of problems due to the Bengals' limitations on offense. So there wasn't a lot of defensive notes there. The defensive backs, they played well. Devontae Davis, who he decided to go and light up Giovanni Bernard on a running back screen, which is, to me, is that play from earlier in the year is still hilarious. And this one just kind of emphasized that.
And they did it a couple of times. They did that whole press coverage and running back screen. And it was quick, too. So Vontae Davis takes this 2 steps back and then rushes forward because Andy Dalton's, he's just staring his man down and runs up incomplete the first go round. So he just, all right, I'm not going to hit you. Second time, yeah. Vontae Davis is not a corner who is afraid of tackling. Apparently he likes it a lot. If you want a good time, look up that hit he laid down earlier in the year. Just Vontae Davis, big hit. And that's one of the ones where everybody in the crowd goes, ooh, collectively. I'd say the defense is good in this game, but they would have to be a lot better to beat Denver.
Which is who they take on Sunday.
Now, before we get to that, I want to address one thing you had brought up as like your kind of chief concern with the Colts going into this game, and the reason why we were both probably looking a little more towards the Bengals, and that is the Colts running game.
Yep.
And I had specifically asked you, will they move away from Trent Richardson and into Boom Herron? And your response was, I don't think that they will, but they really need to.
They didn't play Trent Richardson very much at all. I think one play was all he played, and he's great in pass protection. Yes, that's where he's great at. And I said, do we need to give him some different looks? Yes, you needed to give this team, this was the time to break all of the fancy stuff out of the treasure chest and start throwing it around. I said, will they bring out a 2-back set? I saw 3 times where they had a 2-back set in the limited time I got to watch the game. 3 times they had a 2-back set with Richardson and Herron out there, or with Zerlon, Tipton, and Herron out there. It was interesting. They did a couple of different things. It was a very cool, collected. They took the handcuffs off like I said they were going to. They went deep down the field. They had some complicated routes that was tough for the defense to figure out. It seemed like the Bengals had a hard time covering the receivers. Obviously, Moncrief and Hilton are much faster than what they're used to dealing with in their AFC North realms. So it was a very, very good showing by not just Andrew Luck in the offense, but very good play calling by Pep Hamilton.
And the mentality, we have been obviously aware of Trent Richardson and his failings. They were smart. They put in Daniel Boom Herron at running back, and he managed 56 yards off of 12 attempts. So that's 4 per 6 yards a carry and a touchdown. And he also managed 10 receptions for 85 yards. Now, he did have 2 fumbles, 1 lost, which led to a Cincy field goal, but he was pretty good overall. And most importantly, it was not Trent Richardson. And as you mentioned, undrafted rookie Zerlon Tipton. He was kind of like the 4th quarter power back, and he seemed to really enjoy just running forward and hitting people and then running forward some more. So clearly has some anger management issues. Pretty funny. And he did pretty good, 40 yards off of 11 carries. And while neither running back was too terribly impressive, I mean, if you remove the long of the day for Heron and his yards per carry is closer to 2 and 2.6, the important thing is the Colts are ready to move on from Trent Richardson, acknowledge their mistakes. And if you are Denver, that has to be a little bit of a scary thing, because if the Colts are willing to just focus on the good and ignore the bad of their team, while we can't say, all right, this game's going to go one way or another, we will say that Denver is a beatable team for Indianapolis. I don't think that it will happen, but I won't be surprised if it does. All right, now let's take on the next game, final exciting game of our wild card weekend, and it was exciting. 6th-ranked Detroit Lions take on the 3rd-ranked Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys take this one 27-16 amid a whole lot of controversy and a ridiculous amount of whining.
Oh, a crazy amount of whining by Lions fans. And you know what? We'll get to the flag removal extravaganza in a few minutes. Let's start with the facts first.
You can't do that, okay? We got to keep this in fantasy time, because what you're proposing is that we start forcing Detroit people to deal with their reality. Now they're looking around, seeing their life that they live, and there's going to be so much suicide, and I don't think that you're ready for those consequences. Now, clearly,
I've been trying to get rid of that city for years anyway. I mean, this might just finally be able to. I mean, let's.
Other than I apologize for interrupting you, good sir. Get on with that Detroit genocide.
The Lions, they played in reverse of themselves in this game than they had the rest of the year. They were good in the first half and bad in the second, when normally it's the inverse. So Stafford was exactly who I thought he was going to be in this game. He was 323 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, 2 lost fumbles. He imploded just like I figured he would. I figured he'd have a strong showing to start, and then he would just go downhill, because as soon as the defense figures him out, that's how it is. Now, he was 11 for 18 for 132 yards and 3 turnovers following halftime.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Romo, on the other side, he was not particularly outstanding either, but was good considering he was playing a top end D, and Bryant was basically glued to defensive backs all night. So, and that I mean that in a homosexual way, so you can say that whatever you want to say it. And he was 19 for 31, 293 yards, 2 touchdowns, even being sacked 6 times.
Wait a minute. Did you say he was glued to people, and you mean that in a homosexual way?
The running game struggled for both teams.
I don't think that's how gay sex works at all. I'm pretty sure that those dudes are not using glue. It's like the opposite of what they want. I would tell you to watch some videos, but ew.
Yeah, no one wants to watch those kind of videos.
Well, I mean, it's not true, but yeah, mostly no one. Whatever, I don't care.
With the Detroit D being the best at defending the run, and the Dallas side also, being able to defend against a terrible Lions run game. So the run game's kind of traded off, and the cheap shots playing for Detroit were able to keep things under wraps. That is the facts. The facts are that neither team played particularly well on offense. They didn't really play all that well on defense, to be honest. Where the Lions were successful on D, it's because they were doing terrible things, because that's what they are. They're terrible people, all of them.
Ron, is that because of the Detroit that they're terrible?
Yes, it's obviously because they're from Detroit, and also because Jim Caldwell is the most airheaded. He is a black Mr. Magoo.
He really is, though. That whole Tony Dungy coaching tree, it's just a whole bunch of angry black dudes who refuse to be angry black dudes. It's really confusing. It's like, aren't you mad? Yeah. Well, dude, you should say something. Nope, not needed. Like, well, then he won't know that you're mad. He should know. Like, but God damn it. But these issues were here before Caldwell, though. I know him as a coach. He will not address disciplinary or character type issues. It's just not who he is.
Yep. He won't do it in the media or for anybody, for anything. Caldwell's just like, out of sight, out of mind. It doesn't exist. He is that neighbor that never calls the cops. That's what he is.
But he will occasionally leave you a nice little pamphlet about his church and invite you to come. But really, he wants you to move away. They're bringing down property values.
Well, that's all that Detroit is capable of, is bringing down property values.
They are capable of making automobiles that are not really what America wants or needs. I don't need a big car. They aren't moving the McDonald's out into the hills, man. I don't need 4-wheel drive. Well, actually, I live in Alaska, so I kind of do. if I'm driving a truck, but I drive a car. You guys are so stupid, Detroit. Do we have any people from Detroit who listen?
I don't know. I'm sure we do, and I'm sure they're going to be really upset by this, but they have to be used to our ridicule by now. And if they're
Well,
still listening and they've had all the
it's
ridicule that we give
facts.
them,
It is facts. All right. Detroit is not doing so good. And then amidst all the financial crisis, everybody says, "Hey, you know what? Let's go ahead and take some fire ants and toss them in this open wound and get you guys a bronze RoboCop statue." And then the city's like, I guess, I don't know. That is really the last time anybody was happy to, have a reference to Detroit was RoboCop. So I don't know that
which is hilarious to me because the entire concept of RoboCop is that Detroit has become the most awful place ever.
their city was so terrible that everybody's like, yeah, we don't need this dude's consent. Turn him into a robot. I don't care. They didn't even, but they're like, we're so far gone, nobody's really going to be mad. Which is funny because that's how Detroit kind of is. Detroit has a football franchise. Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Oregon do not.
Yeah,
Come to Alaska, we'll treat you better.
the Alaska Lions.
Well, I mean, they'd have to change their name to the Frost Humpers or something retarded like that. You can't have something in Alaska without all of the native Alaskans like, oh, hey, by the way, you took my land, so you have to change all the names of all your mountains and stuff to native names, which are impossible to pronounce for one, and for two, take the land back. But just so you know, we're taking all the electricity and hospitals and pizza and, importantly, alcohol with us. And living up here, I can tell you, we take that booze, they will friggin' die. There are certain villages that I go into where people will see me come in on the plane, the little tiny prop plane that I have to charter for my job, and they'll be like, what alcohol did you bring? I'm like, I didn't bring alcohol. I'm not an alcoholic. And then I get told, oh yeah, if you had bought in a, fifth of Crown Royal, it would have sold for $700.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Getting back to the game though.
Can we talk about how terrible Detroit is some more? They're terrible. All right, done.
The call with the pass interference. All right. This was a magnification of just how horrible the reffing has been, not just in this game, but all year long. There is no conspiracy or anything like that to get Dallas to Green Bay to play and to help them get further on because that's what people want to see ratings-wise. That's not the case.
I think that a better rating story is division rivals playing each other personally, but
and especially because everybody wanted to see the Lions go back to Green Bay after the whole Sue debacle. But there's no conspiracy here. It's just more evidence that of the blatant incompetence of the officiating departments, the rules departments, whoever creates the books or whatever, and the NFL. It's not going to change. It's only going to get worse until the owners do something drastic about it. Now, the calls that went against Detroit, I don't care. I don't. All right, Sue can stand at the end of the podium and be crying and teary-eyed or whatever. I'm just glad justice was served. I'm sorry if that's how I feel. But you go onto the field a week prior and you stomp on a dude's ankle. And I know it wasn't a stomp, it was a step. And you could say your feet were cold and everything. You're 300 pounds. You have more blood than anybody else on that football field. And you're telling me your feet are cold. No.
I have more blood than they do.
I don't care.
Well, not all of it's mine.
That's...
Derailed.
All right. Well, in that case, Cowboys, they go to Green Bay on Sunday, 1:05 p.m. Eastern Time. And I don't know why they didn't flex this one into the night slot because this is going to be the better game anyway.
They probably want to play in Green Bay when it's going to be at its warmest.
Well, if I was Green Bay, I'd want to play in Green Bay.
It's going to
its
be
coldest.
cold one way or the other, but who's
it
it
is
going
a
to
terrible land of horrible cold and failure. So
who's it going to be worse for? The Packers, who are used to it, or the Cowboys, who are not? And I want to address this whole call thing. There's a lot of conjecture and a lot of opinion and this and that. Guy on Dallas says I would have called it. Head of officiating says they should have called it. I will agree on one thing. If you are going to throw a flag and pick it up, you need to get on the mic and say there is no penalty for this because of this. You need to let people know. Otherwise, it's an unfortunate break in the game, and then there's no conflict resolution. If you say, nope, it's over, it's done with, bam, period at the end of the sentence, go on with your life. If you just leave it open there, now we have a run-on sentence. That's not how grammar works. Mrs. Brixby didn't teach you that in the 2nd grade, you dumb son of a bitch. You got to go ahead and get your act right.
All of the Lions fans can sit around and whine all they want about how they were screwed out of it. You weren't screwed out of it. Matt Stafford's awful. Your defense is a bunch of thugs. And this is karma. That's what this is. You went into a game a week ago and you stepped on one of the best players in the NFL, and you can say that they baby him. You can say all you want. But the fact remains that Sue is a dirty, cheap-shotting bastard, and he deserves to be drowned in the ocean, regurgitated by a killer whale, and then have his remains dusted into space. That's what he deserves.
I don't know, dude. The remains into space, that sounds kind of like an honor.
I don't mean like Star Trek shooting from a freaking torpedo tube type honor. I'm talking like chop them up into little pieces and send them floating off into the sun into many different directions.
That's not very good. Why don't you go ahead and mix his ashes with like some sort of horrible Taiwanese like crack cocaine, and then you tell him you take his body and the crack cocaine stuff and you have it snorted up by Thai ladyboys.
I want him to live through the Holocaust.
Wow. Okay, that was you saying that, not me. So, and on top of that, on top of all these things, Detroit fans, things to remember: this whole biz happened with 8 minutes left in the game on 3rd down, 3rd and 1, by the way. So you have 4th and 1 with 8 minutes remaining. You should have gone for it. You were not on your side of the field. Or if you were, I don't remember the exactness of it. If you had gone for it on 4th and 1 and you get it, you're good to go. And on top of that, you say, no, 4th down, Jim Caldwell, super safe, let's punt. When your punter has it go out of bounds after being 10 yards past the line of scrimmage, now you just had a 10-yard punt. That's awful. Blame him. And then on top of that, you still had Dallas having the ball, and you get the ball back. You had other opportunities. So if you really want to prop up one play as the reason you lost and how it's unfair and Jerry Jones paid off the refs, if that's what you need to do with your life, fine, you live in Detroit. I don't want you looking around your shack and beating your wife to death with a hammer because you're upset and you figure, well, jail can't be worse than this because it's true. But know that everybody in the league doesn't care that you have won a total of 1 playoff game since 1957. Nobody cares about that. Get a better ownership, have some dedication, and maybe something good will happen. But it won't. You live in Detroit, and your car is going to crush you.
All right, so Dallas at Green Bay, Sunday. Go ahead and watch that one. That's it. That's all I've got to say about the Lions, and I have no sympathy. Let's go on into some news. Let's get into, real quick, I wanted to mention that the Rams owner has decided to go ahead and build a stadium in LA.
Not a big surprise, I think. They've been there before. The 2 franchises that get tossed around the most often for going to LA are the Rams and the Raiders again. And the problem that has been for a lot of the curious folk out there, why has there not been a franchise in Los Angeles? It's all about the stadium. The city and county of Los Angeles does not have a lot of money. California, believe it or not, is a pretty poor state. There's taxation problems there, a very real mix of incredibly wealthy and incredibly poor, and nary shall the two meet. So taxation and whatever, you can't tell people, hey, LA County, we're going to raise taxes by whatever percent so we can get a new stadium for a new team that none of you care about. So they tell the NFL, you use Dodger Stadium. And the NFL goes, no, that's a crap stadium, a crap team. We want our own identity. We want our own merchandise. We don't want to be the house guest. And also the dude running the Dodgers is shady as hell. So if he can get the stadium built and do the things, yeah, this is going to be back in LA and probably be more popular than when they were there the first time.
Well, the popularity of football from now as opposed to what it was before is much higher. So I would assume that a team will be a little bit more welcoming. Now it is LA. They have a million sports teams as it is already. Their fans are already pulled in a bunch of different directions. So I could still see
LA,
that being
it's very trendy to be a basketball fan. It's very trendy to be a fan of the Lakers or now the Clippers now that the power has shifted. And do your thing there. I'm from Southern California originally. It's a horrible place, god awful. No desire to go back whatsoever. You get my family out of there, you can sink that thing into the sea, and I will be like, well, what's for dinner? But yeah, there's enough to do there in that area. I will admit that it's going to be hard to get fans interested to be like, oh yeah, a team here, whatever. You're going to just be gone again in a few years. A new stadium will alleviate some of that, but you also got to change the team name to like, the Star Lovers or, Mayonnaise Jar or whatever.
Mayonnaise jar. Let's go on to a New York Daily News article that ran that says sources are saying that Doug Marrone, who is recently the head coach of the Bills, is a control freak. He wasn't liked by the players, and he's not a good head coaching prospect, implying that his offense was poor and that the difference this year was that they brought in Jim Schwartz and that his D was awesome.
Well, the defense was awesome, and the offense was pretty poor. Now, one thing that we had raised, I can't remember if it was last week or the week before. I believe it was last week. I said, if this guy was the guy who engineered the Sammy Watkins trade, hate him completely because now he's leaving you without a first-round draft pick this year. Well, it's also been revealed that he was not responsible. He was actually incredibly strongly against it, and there are conflicting reports as to whether he walked out or stormed out, but they are all pretty unified in that as soon as the Sammy Watkins trade happened, he got up and left the room. He was doing that whole, I'm done with this. I can't do this, which, okay, that's one thing, but when you don't connect with players, when you're very abrasive, when I'm reading that he's got to approve each and every piece of content before it goes on the website, I'm talking like videos and calendars and stuff like that. He wants to essentially be the GM of everything. You can't have a report like this come out and think that it's going to be good for you trying to land a new head coaching gig. And this is what you get when you build into your contract the whole I get my money and run clause. You can do that if you're a cool guy and the players are going to be like, man, I'm going to miss you, coach, but you're my guy and I love you. It's a whole other thing when everybody's like, good, that asshole's gone. I hope that they burn his car.
Now, there are going to be some teams who would want that kind of thing. Like I could see that kind of thing kind of happening in 49ers country, possibly in Raiders country.
Well, there were teams that were just couldn't wait to get Johnny Manziel. There's always somebody who's fooled. There's always somebody who thinks they know, and they're like, well, look at the success he had. And they were a bad team, and that's all I need to know. Get him in here. He'll be somewhere. Maybe not this year. He might do the whole take a year off thing and then come back, because we all know you take some time off, all of a sudden you're the new football Jesus when you come back. How else could everybody go, well, Lovie Smith in Tampa Bay is a clear sleeper dark horse pick for the playoffs, and then, last place. How did that happen? Well, because he took a year off from failing with the Bears, and so now he's free to fail with the Buccaneers, bringing us that much closer to the glorious Michael Bay era.
That is his reference that Michael Bay should be the coach of the Buccaneers so that it could just be Bay explosions everywhere.
Oh, yeah, it would be so cool. And all of your cheerleaders, I just thought of this, all of your cheerleaders would be forced to have plastic surgery to look like Megan Fox. Now there's a few people going, all right, there's, you take the bad with the good, but yeah, I'm on board.
All right, Kyle, did you hear that Mike Shanahan interviewed for the Raiders position?
I did hear that. I figure, why not?
You do realize that he once was the head coach of the Raiders, right? I guess you can always go home, technically.
There's the Al Davis Raiders, and then there's the current Raiders, and it's a different ball game. Reggie McKenzie, I think, is more than willing to say, I don't care that Al Davis had a problem with the guy. One of the biggest Raiders in history, was a guy that Al Davis had problems with. And I can't for the life of me remember his name right now. Ron, help me. The guy, the running back.
Marcus Allen.
Why couldn't I do that? Stupid brain. Way to go, drugs. Look what you did. Marcus Allen did everything for the team, was constantly voted like teammate of the year by his teammates, even though he was relegated to a fourth string role after having been Super Bowl MVP and NFL MVP. Just for whatever reason, Al Davis hated this dude, buried him on the depth chart. And who was the one that they invited to light the Al Davis Memorial flame? Marcus Allen. That tells me that this new regime is willing to say, yeah, things were not great. We don't have to say the Raider way. We can say what will make our fans happy now. And if that means getting Mike Shanahan in there with all of his terrible playoff record and lack of success without John Elway and Terrell Davis, then, you get that old man in there.
All right, so last bit of coaching news.
Think about this. Think about all the people who still have fire Shanahan signs for the Raiders, because, if you're an Oakland Raider fan, you're probably a hoarder. You're not throwing things out. It just is what it is.
Why?
Do I really need to explain that one, or are you going to be on board?
I'll just jump on board because I don't want you to explain it. That's mostly it.
That's a pretty smart answer right there, Cupcake. Anyhow, all these people, they just go ahead and dig through their garbage pile in their adjacent yard, and they'll be, well, I'm pretty sure that I can find the
yard.
I'm assuming they don't have their own yard, but that there's like an empty lot next door from when Bubba's trailer burned down because he took to the bottle after Claire left for the last time, and he just, he left his oven on one too many times, and why does he need his oven? He's only making the poppity corn, but he's still gonna do it. And it's just, burned down, and that's where you keep your stuff.
This is California, not Southern Alabama.
Have you been to Oakland?
Well, no.
Shut up. All right. Let's just leave it at that then. Don't.
But it wouldn't be Bubba, it'd be like Pedro.
I am personally all right, so whatever. You're sitting there in Pueblo de los Mexicanos, and you're doing your thing. And you go ahead and pull out your Fire Shanahan sign. You don't even need to get a new sign. That means one less trip to Walmart, which means fewer of our food stamp dollars going to waste. I'm implying that if you're a Raider fan, you are on the welfare. I'm not saying that, all of them, just, enough of them to say practically all of them. I'm just saying Shanahan's not the guy. That's all I'm saying. And that there's going to be a whole lot of drunken, inbred, crazy people who are going to
Oh,
be...
my God. Yeah.
Why don't they move the Raiders to Alabama?
Where would they... No, I don't even want to ask that question. Let's go. Let's just get into...
The only one I know from Alabama is Mobile and Tuscaloosa. I can't bring myself to hate Tuscaloosa because it is fun to say. It does make me think of old-timey racism, and that does make me a little sad, though. Because that stuff is actually not really funny.
Hey, should we review a couple of games that are going to be on this weekend?
You mean preview?
Yeah, should we preview a couple of games that are going to be on this weekend?
Well, I mean, that's kind of the basis of our
sometimes
show.
I really feel like you're the conductor of the train, and I'm just being dragged behind in a horrible caboose. Like, I'm at one of those old red cabooses, just connected to a bullet train that's headed directly for a wall, and it's going to explode into crazy dust and just fill the land with insanity, and there's nothing I can do about it. Like, no Christian Slater could stop this.
Yeah, well, I mean, the cargo is Pegasus, so you just got to let it happen.
God. Who you picking for Carolina at Seattle?
Are you retarded? Can we say that word?
I don't think we can, but I really don't care anymore at this point.
You know what, though? That's messed up. There are certain words that I can't say because the people who are that get offended. Go right to hell. I'm sorry that I care about justice, but I want to use all my words. You can't tell me that I can't use those words. I'm an American. I pay taxes. Granted, I generally get a tax refund because I'm not that 1%. I'm going to be one of the masses, and I say we get our words. You give them back 1%ers, they use them. They're using the words. And I'm able to go on this rant because we all know Seattle's going to win. And it's not even going to be close. It's going to be like 20-something points. Now, the interesting one, I mean, the Seattle-Carolina, that if you got to skip a game, I don't know why they made that one the late game on Saturday. That's not the interesting game. I guess that's probably...
We'll see a movie that night because there's no point in watching that crap.
Well, there's not really any good movies out. So that'd be, you know what? Support American freedom. Find a way to watch The Interview. We're not sponsored by Sony or anything. I just like the fact that it pissed Korea off so much that they started hacking us, and that America's response was, we're going to shut down the entirety of your internet, Korea, because we can, because we're America. We will go ahead and dive bomb every bald eagle right onto your face if you do not cut the shit.
Dive bomb every bald eagle. I just had the most amazing visual of like rockets strapped to eagles. And like
In my mind, you got a whole bunch of eagles with like fighter pilot helmets, like just swooping down, like gold leader, this is green leader. We are go for attack. And they just and they claw his face out and he's screaming and he's fat.
and he eats too much cheese and he has bad ankles.
You know, his brother was arrested in Japanese Disneyland for trying to get in with a forged passport.
I'm not shocked by that.
You know what you're going to be shocked by? The fact that his older brother, because it's the older brother should have taken it, but this is the thing that ruined him. Goes in, fake Chinese passport that his name, when translated, would have read Fat Bear. So that's what Korea is, a whole bunch of fat bears running a country. Speaking of fat bears, hey, Baltimore, New England, Saturday, 4:35. What's going to happen there, Ron? What can we look forward to?
I look forward to seeing Haloti Ngata and Terrell Suggs folding Tom Brady into a new type of human pretzel.
God, please, just first of all, everybody, you can go ahead and raise $9,000 friggin' dollars to help some people in need, and you can't give Tom Brady cancer. You make me sick. All right, that's number one. Can't give him cancer. That is crap, and you know it. I don't care about charity as much as I care about cancer. That's not true. I'm very proud of all of you, but still, let me go ahead on this. It's funny. Screw Tom Brady. He needs cancer. So now we're going to go ahead and have to turn to Baltimore, have them do all the things that you guys are supposed to do. I'm sitting here using my mental powers and my telepathies to give Tom Brady cancer, and now I got to go ahead and say, hey, Joe Flacco, you're pretty boring. Would you mind going ahead and passing along a message to all your defenders to go ahead and smush these dudes? And he's going to be like, yeah, okay. Can I have some McNuggets? Because he likes McNuggets.
That Ravens pass rush is going to turn Tom Brady into the middle guy of a real-life human centipede.
Now, to take it back to reality, a place I do not often dare to go.
You're telling me to go back to reality?
No, I said we. I'm not.
What kind of crazy world did I wake up in?
You were not listening. I said if we go back to reality right quick. I'm saying I'm going to step back into reality. You were already there. I mean, because it is a possible reality that Terrell Suggs and Haloti Ngata, have a little sandwich action with Tom Brady. Terrell's piece of bread, Haloti's piece of bread, Tommy's that salami in the middle.
Tommy's always the salami in the middle. He wears Uggs. For God's sakes.
No, he doesn't wear
that man is human baloney.
He markets that's worse. That's a dude. He's not just wearing it. He's convincing other men to do it. Try it, guys. Your ladies will love it. It's like, Tom, what the crap is wrong with you, dude? Seriously. Get out. Okay? We're tired of your... But he gets to keep doing it with his fat head haircut. I don't know. Anyway, what is going to happen with Gronkowski? That is my personal question, because we've said it a few times this year. When Gronkowski is healthy, Tom Brady looks like a king. When Gronkowski is not, that's when everybody goes, well, Tom Brady's got no weapons. He's got mediocre weapons, but they are weapons. They are pretty good. You can't tell me that they're not with the numbers they put up and the things that they do. But it all starts and ends, in my mind, with Gronkowski. Because you got to double team that. And I like him. He's a big dude. He takes photos with kittens. He knows what's up.
Yeah, I think everybody pretty much loves Rob Gronkowski. He's a tough guy.
I so much don't want to, but then I look at him, I'm like, God, he'd be fun to hang out with.
It's much like J.J. Watt. Like, it's just hard not to like the guy.
Yeah, but J.J. Watt is out, like, doing things for charity and going, oh, this little 6-year-old girl who has cancer says she wants nothing more than to be married to me. So here I am showing up announced with all these money for treatments, and we're going to fake be married for the day. It's like, that's
pretty cool.
Yeah, J.J. Watt's adorable, whereas Rob Gronkowski's like, you see that porn star? Yeah, and it happened. To be fair, she was pretty hot.
Now, if the Ravens are able to take the tight end out of play, which they have not been able to do very well this year, they can win this game easily. Now, if they have to deal with Gronkowski running all over the place and getting up and over every single one of their defenders, which it sounds like it'll be mostly what happens, they're going to have a harder time winning this, but they can win it. Getting to Tom Brady early in this one is going to be the key.
If you make them play on emotion, you're saying you're going to have a better shot than if you let him be calculating.
I'm taking the Baltimore defense over the New England offense. I'm taking Baltimore, and I'm taking Baltimore by 10.
I had this gut feeling, and I really, I got that weird superstition. Like, if you acknowledge it, you ruin it, and then it's your fault. And I can't handle that. I had this gut feeling that the Colts were going to win and the Ravens were going to win because that's what I really wanted. That's the two games where I wanted that to be the outcome. The others, I didn't care. That's the NFC, and it didn't affect me. And what I wanted happened. And I said the otherwise, I'm like, because I was unsure. I believe what you're saying is true. The Ravens are the team that is, for some reason, never ever afraid of the fact that the New England Patriots are the New England Patriots. They always have this cavalier, yeah, we don't care who you are attitude when they go there. And when they host the Patriots, it's like, did you really just step into our house? We're going to hurt you. They don't always win, but they never make it easy on Bill Belichick. And I think that Ravens by 10 might be a little high, but yeah, between 5 and 8, I could see it. I I hope so. I really, really hope so. So let's go to the next one. Let's talk about the Colts headed to Denver. And speaking with my hope, I hope that Indy can win this. Should they? No, not really. Denver actually has good pass rush. That'll jack up Andrew Luck all day. Denver also has really good corners. Aqib Talib owns Andrew Luck all day and all night. He owned him last year. He owns him this year. I do not think Andrew Luck will be able to get past that guy. However, Peyton Manning has been having a lot of trouble recently. And the Colts actually have a decent run defense.
Unless something has happened over the bye week, and that's entirely possible. For all I know, Peyton could be just playing some kind of strange game with everybody, with the entire world, where he's going to look like crap, and now he's going to come out and he's just going to go absolutely bonkers. But that's a conspiracy theory that is in my own mind. But unless something has changed over the bye week, it's going to be bad. Do I think that Denver will lose at home? No, but it's still not going to be pretty. Therefore, going forward, it doesn't really matter because whoever they play, whether it be the Ravens or the Patriots, they're still going to probably lose that game anyway.
Right. Whereas I think that if the Colts have the kind of grit to beat Denver, then they probably will be able to beat Baltimore, especially if that game was in Indy. It happened once in the year. Granted, that doesn't count for anything once you come to playoffs and Joe Flacco plays like a madman. But I think that the Colts could take it. If the Colts can beat Denver, they can very possibly beat New England. Hard to say, but in this one, I'm gonna be risky, and I'm gonna say Colts by 6.
Oh, I'm not. I'm taking Denver. Denver by 15. Easy. That's what I'm taking.
Yeah, it's probably gonna be what happens, but let's play flip that coin with it. Why not? And let's finally get to Dallas going to Green Bay. Apparently the game that, according to the Lions fans, the NFL needed you to see.
Of all the NFC teams that were left, Green Bay did not want to see Dallas.
True.
Because it's the one team that has a legit shot at beating them.
Which is also kind of funny. The one team that the Seahawks didn't want to see, in my mind, was Detroit.
Because of the Packers' defense and the way that it works, and the way that it gives up a lot of yards, but then kind of tightens down in the red zone, I have to assume that Dallas will overcome that. Now, it's probably going to be unpopular. I have a lot of Green Bay friends. I think Green Bay is going to have a lot of trouble with this. I do not think they will lose. They do not lose at home very often. It is a very rare case. In fact, of all of the games that Aaron Rodgers has started at home, he's only lost 3. So I would not bet against them at home ever, even no matter what team it was playing them. It could be a team that's scoring 100 points a game. I'm still not going to bet against Green Bay at home. It's just, it doesn't happen, especially at this time of year against a team that plays in the Dome in the South. I'm taking Green Bay. This isn't the Lions running attack. This is Eddie Lacy, 1,500 yards this year. It's Jordy Nelson, the best fade route runner in the NFL. It's Randall Cobb, the best hitch and go man that they've got. It's going to be an offensive battle. This will be exciting to watch because both teams have the same type of defense and the same caliber of players. So it's going to be a lot of Dez Bryant and Jordy Nelson and Eddie Lacy and DeMarco Murray. It's going to be fun to watch.
They're the neat little storylines here. We love the storylines. There's going to be so much competition. Good play on both sides of the ball. My personal feeling is, ever since having the hand injury, DeMarco Murray has not been running all that well. He hasn't been running necessarily poorly, but when you consider his form in the earlier parts of the year before the injury and where he's at now, you can say, "Whoa, something's not right." And you say it's your offhand. How much is that really going to affect you? Anytime you're not at 100%, it nags at you. As two dudes living with injuries day in, day out, it takes its toll all over because now your body, it's almost like you can't repair completely because you're focusing so much on repairing the injury. And it makes you tired. It makes you weak. I think that's kind of the X factor in this one. And I think it's got to be Green Bay.
It's just the home field advantage. It's just I can't look past that. I can't get past it either. I can't. And I know that, and I'm very aware everybody's going to say, well, Dallas was undefeated on the road this year. I get that. I get it. I do. But what I'm trying to tell you is that they didn't play the Green Bay Packers. So you can say all you want about how they're undefeated on the road. Grant, let's be specific. They beat the Eagles, the Redskins, and the Giants. All right. The other games on the road were against teams that weren't that good. Their road games were not hard. Tennessee, St. Louis in week 3 when they were in just a bunch of problems. They played Jacksonville on the road in week 10, New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, which was out of it by then, and Seattle. And they won there in Seattle. Now, granted, that's a tough place to win on the road, but it was at the middle of the season when Seattle was kind of in all that turmoil, and Washington to end the season, who was a complete crap show of fun and failure.
I'd say that's a concise and beautiful, majestic, potentially amazing take on these games. Ron, do we have anything cool to give the people to shove in their face holes?
Not really. We were going to get to the emails and stuff, but we kind of went a little long. And next week, we'll have less games to preview with only having 2 games to go over. So let's wait for that. And I want to see what we're getting in emails because we actually got another one while we were recording the show. So I'm going to wait and see what we bring in with those. Let's. One thing I do want to do is I want to read off real quick the 1-star review we got on iTunes. And I just want to address this because in case this person is listening, I wanted to read your comment because it's pretty funny. That is, these guys pride themselves on not being a rehash of stats, but if you can't bring any other substance to the show, why bother? And we never claimed that we brought substance to the show. We just claimed that we were different.
I'm a little confused. I mean, I don't understand the comment necessarily because, yeah, we don't want to just slam stats in your face. And we've said over and over, we do not want to be the Disney-owned, family-friendly sports view that you can just take and digest in its easy, suppository form. We're not saying we're edgy and we're out there. We're labeled as a clean podcast. There's minor swearing, but it's okay. You know you like it. But we're 2 fat jackasses talking about football in our spare time because you know why? We talk about football in our spare time anyway, so we said, well, why don't we go ahead and throw a podcast together and see if we get anything out of it? Maybe we'll have some fun, and we do. And also, this means our wives have to leave us alone when we're talking about football because we say we're doing it for the podcast. So thank you for taking the time to comment. I'm not as angry as I think I should be, but I think that's largely just because I don't want to be the dude who you criticize our show. And then I'm like, well, you're wrong. And I don't think you know what you're talking. No, I don't care, dude. Yeah, you have some valid points. What else are we bringing? I don't know. Fart jokes. What do you want? I'm sitting here talking about giving a dude cancer in the friggin' brain. All right. If you want Skip Bayless to be, magically stupid in your face all day, you go right ahead. We don't want to do that. That's dumb. When you listen to us, here's what you do. Imagine that you're at a sports bar and there's 2 loud dudes at the table next to you talking about sports. That's us. We're eating so many nachos. And you're like, you can't eat that many nachos. We're like, bitch, you watch. These aren't even regular nachos. They're Irish nachos. We step our game up here and you can't handle it. You can't handle that magnitude. What's that? No, there's 5 jalapeno peppers on 1 nacho. You can't do that. Oh my God, he's putting hot sauce on top of it. No sour cream. Get that weak stuff out of here. I take it to the hole. My food hole. Those Irish nachos so tasty.
Listen, if you don't think we have substance and you don't want to listen to our show, then don't listen to it. And you have every right to give us a 1-star rating. I'll have it removed because I hate you, but nothing would bring me more pleasure than for you to see your dog get run over by a pickup truck.
I'm imagining you know who that was, and you've got plans made. But look, we're not hung up on we're not hung up on reviews. Give us a review on iTunes or whatever you're listening on. We'd appreciate it. It'd be cool. More than anything, I think our favorite thing really is addressing your comments and your emails. So you can comment on the website or on Facebook or wherever. If you got the time, that would be great. We love addressing your stuff. I'm making an effort to not call you guys idiots and talk about how dumb you are and what a failure at life you are and how you should just go ahead and jump those sharks but stop halfway through and get eaten by said sharks. But, first you got to give them a whole bunch of Viagra so you get a little bit of shark rape before you die. I mean, I'm trying not to say that. I'm trying.
Listen, this guy who sent this one, you don't matter. You don't. Thank you. I'm actually way more irritated about it than you are. I'm more irritated because, you didn't give me anything specific either. Your comment has no substance. All right? I got more substance out of a bowl of tapioca pudding.
Hey, I push more substance out about 3 times a day because I eat healthy. Yeah, give us your terrible review. Apparently, if it doesn't make sense, Ron will contact whoever the hosting service is and ask if it's valid. We can't just pull down our negative reviews, so don't think that we're doing just that. Apparently, in wiping this negative review, Ron also wiped out about 3 positive ones.
When your total average star rating that you give people is 1.3, buddy, and I know that because I was able to see it, because I don't know, what are you doing? Are you just sitting at home going, no, that's 1 star? You're that guy on Yelp who has to talk bad about everybody else because you have nothing better to do with your life. You're probably huge and sit at home and eat massive amounts of cheese-covered Doritos because you're sad about how small your is.
Dude, that's... Why are you talking about me? Zing, yes.
All right, let's wrap this up.
I took that one to the house. Look, did we cover our sponsors, yes or no?
Yes, we covered our sponsors in the beginning of the show.
Right.
What we didn't do is we need to cover all of our friends in the military, and we need to thank them for everything they do and letting us be retarded on the show every single week.
Hey, if you're in a combat zone, do like I did and wait until you're in a large group area, okay, and everybody's standing around with your weapon, as you do. You're deployed with a weapon. At least if you're in the Army. If you're in one of those little, non-combat branches, whatever, you go ahead and you play nice. But if you're in the real military, gloves thrown down, wait until the next time somebody walks into a crowded area and scream, "Oh my God, he's got a gun," and throw yourself down. Let me just tell you, when I did that in the tent I was in, when I was in Kuwait on our way to Iraq, I thought it was funny. We all had guns, and the guy walking in was an American. I was given many lectures, and I lost a little bit of sleep that night due to corrective training, but I clearly didn't get anything out of it, and I was smirking like a jackass the whole time. People were yelling at me. I'm like, it was funny. It was funny. Do you need me to explain it?
No.
Give it a shot and see if you can get 3 or 4 people in on it, because then you can't if other people laugh, you can't get in trouble. That's a rule.
Well, that's it, everybody. You all have a good night. Thanks to our sponsors. Thanks to our listeners. We appreciate everything you do, despite the ridicule we give you. And we'll have a lot more coming to you next week. Take care. Good night, Kyle.
Get on that Amazon and all that. I need monies. There are houses in my price range. I need stuff.
Help us out the best way you can.
By helping yourself. We love you. Have a great day.